This is Ethan, and I'm here with Dave, and together we are Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, episode 188-inch.
On this episode, we present the second chapter of our Weird Al Yankovic Story series, where we chronicle our time on the set of Weird Al Yankovic Story.
It's Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
It's a podcast about Weird Al.
It's Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
Seriously, the whole podcast is about Weird Al.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
You don't have to listen, but we're glad you are.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
Before we get any further in this episode, we need to tell you that there are only a few short days, hours, minutes, and seconds to get the Kickstarter campaign fully funded for the incredible Show Gals documentary, which tells the tale of Tight and Nerdy, the Weird Al-themed burlesque troupe.
Now, Ethan and myself both believe so much in this amazing documentary that we have each pledged way too much of our very hard-earned money behind this project.
And that's not all. In addition to our personal contributions, we are excited to announce that, on behalf of our wonderful Patreon family, Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast has additionally contributed as well.
Now, as you may know, all money raised from our Patreon page over at patreon.com/2000inch goes directly towards supporting this incredible podcast, which includes covering costs for recording equipment, stickers, wooden nickels, and other necessary expenses that would otherwise be coming out of our pockets.
We are proud to share that Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast has officially pledged 2 months worth of Patreon proceeds toward the Showgals Kickstarter campaign.
So when you watch the credits of the film and see Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, you will know that your support of this podcast, in part, helped make Showgals possible. And you'll also know that intern Frank was not included at all.
While we obviously want you to support the project if you have not already, we also want to challenge those who have already supported to up your pledge by another $27, if you can, to help get the film just that much closer to the goal. Why not?
And don't forget, there are great perks associated with pledging your support, like on-screen and IMDb credits, pasties, shirts, and bonus content featuring additional footage of their interview with Weird Al himself.
It's coming down to the wire, but together we can make this documentary happen.
And don't believe us? Well, here's an important message and update from our close personal friend, the director and producer of Showgals, UH Jeff Nucera.
Dave and Ethan. Hi, it's UH Jeff. You might remember me from some of your episodes and from real life. Anyway, I am coming to you with an update about Showgals, the documentary I'm doing about the burlesque tribute to Weird Al Yankovic. Thank you so much for your support. You guys have been so wonderful throughout this whole painful process. I am sorry for spamming everyone nonstop. Anyway, we have a big update today. We have just hit 72% of our goal. 72% over at Kickstarter. That is 27% backwards, as you probably know. Anyway, Kickstarter, though, is an all-or-nothing platform. So if we don't hit 100% by our deadline, which is Friday night, 10 o'clock Hollywood Star Time, we don't get anything. And you don't get a movie or pasties. What a bummer that would be. So from Chloe and I, thank you for your support. Come to BearToBeStupid.com. Support us any way you can, either financially or just through sharing or sending love and cat food, I guess. Okay, bye.
You can get all the details and latest news over at BareToBeStupid.com. That's BARE to be stupid.com.
And be sure to follow Showgals on social media for their fun updates, hilarious videos, and information on how to hear their awesome interviews and appearances, like on our friend Spencer Parks' podcast, The Dictionary.
As UH Jeff said, the campaign closes this Friday at 10 p.m. Hollywood Star Time sharp. And if the goal isn't met by then, not only do we not get to see the Showgirls documentary, and, I think Chloe was meowing over this part, but I'm pretty sure UH Jeff promised to club some seals if the campaign is unsuccessful, and we just can't have that.
Well, this is such a great project, and we really hope you support it. Okay, so let's see what else is happening in Weird Al related news.
We are sad to share that the world of comedy music has lost a legend.
Robert Hamer, aka Artie Barnes of Barnes & Barnes, who gave the world the forever weird novelty hit Fish Heads, has passed away after a long illness at the age of 69.
The news came this past Saturday, March 4th, and shook friends and family and fans of Robert's across the world.
Bill Mooney, the other half of Barnes & Barnes, wrote of his friend, "Robert was a one-of-a-kind artist and person. I will miss making that unique Barnes music very much. Robert made many people happy with his talent and his humor."
Now, we are stunned and saddened by this news. Robert was someone who has been spoken highly of on our podcast multiple times by multiple people. We only wish we could have had him on to tell his stories of working with Weird Al, Dr. Demento, and his part in shaping novelty music as we know it.
For all who loved Robert, and from all of us here at Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, Gil and chill in peace, Robert Hamer, a.k.a. Artie Barnes. Yeah.
The not-so-serious Weird the Al Yankovic Story is still racking up some serious movie awards.
Most recently, Jamie Kennedy, editor of Weird the Al Yankovic Story, won the American Cinema Editor's Ace Eddie Award for her work on the film.
First, Jamie got to edit all of that footage of us as bikers in the film, and now she's winning awards. What an honor both of those must have been.
From all of us here at Dave and Ethan's 2000's Weird Al podcast, congratulations to Jamie on the well-deserved win.
Weird Al and his band just wrapped up the European leg of the unfortunate return of the ridiculously self-indulgent, ill-advised Vanity Tour and are now headed to Australia for the final 8 international shows of the tour, followed by their 2 shows in Hawaii.
Prior to heading out, the guys performed 5 dates here in the good old USA, and Ethan was there for all of them.
Dave and I have recorded reviews for those, along with some special guests joining us, and those will be up on Patreon soon, along with our monumental review of the epic Carnegie Hall show.
Now, if you want to hear our reviews as soon as humanly possible, be sure to sign up over at our Patreon page at patreon.com/2000inch, because not only will you get early access to these episodes, you'll also be supporting the podcast. It's a win-win for everybody.
This episode is brought to you in part by Discover Darwin, promoting tourism in Darwin, Minnesota. Not only is historic Darwin, Minnesota beautiful, it's also whiny.
Darwin, Minnesota is home to Jomis Hill Vineyard.
Whoa! Jonah Hill owns a vineyard in Darwin, Minnesota? I would have never guessed that.
No, Ethan. That's Jomis Hill. Jomas.
I don't know if I've ever heard of him. What movies is he in?
I have no idea. Honestly, I'm not even sure if that's a real person or not.
Oh, well, if not acting, then what is Jomis Hill known for?
Probably wine.
Oh, let's see. Here's a Yelp review for Jomis Hill Vineyard.
Oh, what does it say?
Well, Dane Smith writes, their handcrafted wood-fired pizzas are amazing.
Oh, well, here's another one. Odila Lindstrom wrote, the wood fire pizza was delectable.
Okay, but here, Megan Rogers writes, I will go back. The pizza crust was excellent and cooked perfectly.
This is a vineyard, right?
Yeah.
So visit Darwin, Minnesota on your next on your next pizza tasting expedition. Discover Darwin more than just the twine ball. And after you visit Darwin, Minnesota, be sure to attempt to visit discoverdarwin.biz.
Last episode, we kicked off our first chapter of our Weird the Al Yankovic Stories series with some great messages from the past and some fun speculation on what was to come.
Now, we received a lot of great feedback on that first chapter, and we're excited to bring you along with us on our journey as 2 of Weird Al's biggest fans getting to take part in his incredible film.
On this chapter, we take you through the first part of our day from the set of Weird the Al Yankovic Story on our journey as featured background actors in the I Love Rocky Road biker bar scene.
All right, let's go back to that warm and fateful day back in February 2022.
Yes, so we are recording this episode a few days later after we've already recorded. We're back home. We're back on the East Coast, and it's been a whirlwind. We wanted to record this, though, after our experience, but while it was still fresh in our minds, so we can tell you absolutely everything that we can possibly remember.
And oh my gosh, there was so much going on at that shoot. Like so much to remember. My brain is just like, it's like a cartoon. There's like popping here and there. Oh, this happened and this happened and this happened. So there's so much we have to tell you, so much we have to get to. We only hope we can remember all of it. And we're going to do our best, but it's just so much going on. It's hard to take everything in.
Yeah, for the past few days, I've been purposely like not playing Wordle, for example, because, I don't want to introduce new information into my brain and possibly lose something from Monday. And yes, I did put in a Wordle reference just because I know in however many months until this actually airs, there's a very good chance that nobody knows what Wordle is anymore. They'll be like, oh, I remember Wordle.
Or everybody is so addicted to Wordle at this point that no one's listening to this episode.
That's true.
They're just sitting by their phones, waiting and waiting for the next Wordle to drop.
All right. Well, like I said, we're home. We've had a couple days to think about this, to process this. I mean, Dave, we have talked to people who have worked on Weird Al projects who have done less for them than we got to do on Monday. So it's sort of like insane that, this is sort of us interviewing ourselves because there's so much that went on. And, I know we haven't told anybody. It's been killing me to not tell anyone.
Yeah, I have not told anybody unless I absolutely had to. I mean, I've told my wife, I pretty much have to tell her. I told my parents and I told my sister, and that's it. I've told nobody else except for you. I've talked to nobody else except for those 5 people about this, and it's killing me. I want to tell everybody.
And for the people that we did tell, that we had to tell, they're not necessarily getting the full scoop. They don't want to hear every second of what happened. They want to hear like, oh, did you meet Daniel? How did he look as Weird Al? That kind of stuff.
Right.
They're not looking for like, so what was the chair looking like in the holding tent? The stupid crap that we care about.
Yeah.
We're going to go into all those details for you.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to do our best to remember everything we can about that day. It was such a fun day. It was such a great experience. I mean, overall, just to give an overall overview of that day, it was truly one of the greatest days of my life, if not the greatest day of my life. It was incredible.
It was. Yeah, it really was. It was insane. And so I think we, in the first Centimeter episode, before we really knew what was happening and exactly what to expect, we talked about how we had to fly out to LA a little early to get our COVID test. So luckily we got those results back and we did not have COVID, which, even though like we were like pretty sure we didn't have COVID, like it was like, why would like, imagine we get all the way out to LA and it's like, oh yeah, you do have COVID.
Yeah.
You just don't have symptoms or something. So, the fact that we didn't have COVID was really great.
That was a nice,
it
good
was a
relief to confirm that we were okay.
Just like another potential roadblock in our way. We're just like, we need everything to go away because we need this day to happen. And it happened. So everything happened. We're going to tell you all about it. What do you think? Do we just start from the beginning? From like literally waking up?
Yeah, I think we start literally waking up and we just walk through the day as best as we can in chronological order. And let me tell you, Ethan, I mean, I know we talked about leaving at 7 o'clock in the morning so that we would be there for our 9 o'clock call. And we figured, the site that we were going to was 35 minutes away. So we left ourselves plenty of time. Well, I don't know if I told you this, but I woke up at 4:30 in the morning and I could not fall back asleep. So I just got up and I was like, I've been up. I was up since 4:30 in the morning.
Man.
So I got up, I took a shower, I ate some breakfast, and I was waiting for you to wake up, So I had my alarm set for 6, and by 6 o'clock I had done everything that I was hoping to be done with so I could be ready by 7. So I was just hanging out waiting for you all morning.
This just reminds me of like being a kid and like you wake up early on Christmas morning, but
right.
The parents are like, oh, we have to go down as a family at 8, and you're just like, oh, I need to open presents. Like, yeah, it was so exciting. I'm sorry you had to deal with that, Dave. But yes, I slept in a little bit. I think I woke up around 6. We got ready. We sort of had some like tea and some breakfast.
Right.
And I think ultimately we ended up leaving around 7:30.
Yeah, we were not. I mean, we targeted 7 o'clock to leave, but in our minds, we knew we had plenty of time.
Yeah.
So we weren't rushing and trying to get out the door exactly at 7. And we did end up leaving at 7:30. We packed I packed a whole, I didn't have a bag. I basically used a plastic bag and I just threw in a couple changes of clothes and some other stuff I thought I'd need. Because we had no idea how long they were going to need us for. We didn't know if they were going to need us for 2 hours and we were done, or if they were going to need us for 12 hours, we'd be there all day. We didn't get any kind of notification on that. So I cleared, the whole day expecting to be there a whole day.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
I mean, we may have turned around and been back home by, 11 o'clock. We don't know. So, we just brought everything just to be safe.
Yeah. So I put on the outfit that I had sent into the costume people. So black t-shirt, black jeans, and then my black cowboy boots. And Dave, I don't know if I talked about this in the first bonus episode, but I didn't really have room in my bag to pack the cowboy boots because they're kind of large. So I ended up wearing them on the airplane, to Seattle when I went to see Kenneth, and walking through the airport in boots that I'd never really worn before. I got blisters all over my feet.
Oh,
it was horrible.
boy.
I was in pain walking around. Luckily, while I was in Seattle, though, I did get insoles from Target, and that made them a lot more comfortable. But
that's good.
I did, depart our Airbnb dressed to the part. I brought some extra shirts. I brought 2 extra shirts because it's well, what if one gets screwed up and then I have to change? Then I won't have an extra. So that's why I brought 2. I brought blue jeans because I figured blue jeans could be a good alternative if they didn't like the black ones, and just a water bottle and just kind of anything that I thought I might need.
Right.
A comb.
Exactly. Yeah. I also left pretty much dressed also. I had on a white t-shirt. I brought with me the vest I was planning to wear. And I don't know how much detail I talked about the vest in the last episode, but I brought 2 vests along with me. One of them had a whole bunch of really cool biker patches on it. And that's the one that I wearing, when we first got to, where we had to check in. That was the one I wanted to be in the movie if there had to be one, and then
That's
I brought a
choice.
spare one. Right. That was my first choice, and then I brought a spare one in case they were there can't be any patches, because they did send us an email, that said that all tattoos had to be covered. So I was a little bit worried that they may also say, any kind of patches or, that kind of stuff might also need to be covered. So I did bring 2 vests, 2 legitimate biker vests. I brought I did the same thing you did. I was wearing a white t-shirt, and I brought a spare white t-shirt in case I dropped something, spilled some food on it or something, and then I also brought my white tank top, because that was the one that I initially sent the photo in of me wearing that. And that was the shirt I was hoping I would get to wear if they did say that, the tattoo thing was just a formality. You can actually show your tattoos. That's fine.
I think it's so funny because when you think about it, Eric and Al are probably the only people working on the film who know who the heck we are. And so there's this just kind of blanket no tattoo rule. And I doubt that the costume people even would have realized that someone would show up with a Weird Al tattoo,
Well, my Weird Al tattoos are on my ankles, and I was wearing long black jeans, so those would have been covered anyway. I have other tattoos on my arms that would be visible if I was wearing a tank top.
It would be kind of funny, though, for a guy in the scene of Al doing his first ever performance to already have a Weird Al tattoo and autograph tattoo.
That would be something.
Okay, so we get to the place around 8:15, 8:20-ish. Plenty of time. We parked in this little parking garage. And then, out in the parking lot, it was kind of set up as the base camp. So there was, different tents. And they gave us, a map with all this stuff.
Yeah, so the base camp was at a college nearby. It was in a giant parking lot. And there was plenty of space around, And there were, like you said, there were multiple tents. There were a few trailers that were kind of set up. There was a whole bunch of tables underneath one tent, which we would assume was where they were going to have lunch later. We were basically told to, when we get there, go to this first tent. You need to be COVID tested that morning.
Temperature.
Get your temperature taken, show your ID, check in, all that stuff. So, once we got there, we headed right over to that tent and they were, ready for us. So it was okay. We got there early. And I think they were actually happy we got there early because, I'm sure they had a bunch of people that had to check in. Yeah.
We weren't sure if we were needed to wait until 9. I mean, we would have been fine waiting. We were just happy to be early. But yeah, they took us right in, and yeah, they had a thing we had to fill out, and then they printed a sticker, and then they had us fill out a form on our cell phone. We had to scan
Right.
a QR code, and then we had a survey we had to fill out about our health or whatever, and then we had to give the guy a sticker, and then we actually had to swab our own nose.
Yep.
But we had to blow our nose first. He's like, you have to blow your nose first. And I was like, I'm so glad because I totally have snot ready to go. So I was happy that I had that opportunity. Yeah, so they took the test, and then we kind of were just like, what do we do now?
Yeah, so let me just take this opportunity to just try and explain in general, for people who might, I don't know what
good idea. Good
what
idea.
what the situation's like when this episode's going to air. So just in general, anybody who might be concerned, about us going someplace, while COVID is still out there, and going to be with a whole bunch of other people, we got COVID tested twice so far at this point. Everybody we saw all day was wearing masks the entire day, unless you absolutely needed to take it off, while we were filming. And 90%, more than 90% of the time, we were outdoors in these huge open area where there's plenty of opportunity to keep distance between people. I mean, there was no concern at all in my mind, that they were not taking, COVID seriously and accommodating, as much as possible and even overboard as far as, keeping people safe.
And they, even later on in the day, one of the crew members was like, hi, I'm the COVID specialist. He's like, hopefully I lose my job soon and we're done with COVID.
Right.
But, he's like, you got to wear your mask. So, between takes and stuff, they'd be like, all right, put your mask back on, or okay, time to take them off. So everyone was being safe. Everyone in the crew was wearing a mask at all times. Obviously, they didn't want, while they're shooting us in the 1980s,
Right.
wearing our masks. But yeah, it didn't get in the way. And I felt, I agree, Dave. I felt safe the whole time. And just the fact that everyone there was vaccinated and tested so regularly, it felt good. In fact, I don't know if this is jumping ahead too far, but we actually at one point saw Al get a COVID test. I don't know if it's a spoiler for this own episode. We saw Al get tested.
Yep. So we got through our test, and then we were like, okay, where do we go? Because they didn't tell us after the test where to go. So, I mean, this is a new experience for me. You've done extra work before, but you've never been on this set before. You don't know where to go.
And that was 10 years ago, and that was a completely different thing in a different movie, different state.
Right.
Yeah.
You didn't. Right. So we're standing around, we're like, well, what do we do now? So we waited for some other, people to show up, and, a few other people were coming at this point.
It's big, tall, burly guys. We're like, they're probably bikers.
Yeah. So, a couple of them were like, oh, I don't know where to go either. Eventually, we figured out we had to go over to another tent. It was a blue tent. We're like, go over to that blue tent and they'll check you in. We went over to that blue tent. We got to meet the set PA for background, JoJo, who we got to see plenty of times throughout the day.
Oh, yeah.
She checked us in and helped us fill out the paperwork and some tax forms.
Yeah.
And
JoJo was essentially the handler for all of the background or the
Right.
extras. So she was sort of the person who would come and get us when it was time to
Right.
shoot, or it's time for lunch, that kind of stuff.
Right, yeah. If you needed anything, you would just go to JoJo and she'd be able to help you out with it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So we filled out, it was one of those forms where there's 3 different color pages, and they, as you write, it fills it out on all of them. And then there was just a couple other things, just kind of normal stuff to get paid.
Right.
I did notice that most of the people who were there were union in the SAG-AFTRA union, but we are not. So there were some differences, and I think we'll point these out throughout the day as,
Right.
So anyone who's not familiar with it, Dave, I told you I had done some extra work before. I did 3 days of it, and 2 days I was non-union, and 1 day they needed an extra union person on set, so they did what's called a union waiver, and they pretend that I'm in the SAG union. So I already had the experience of being treated like royalty one day, and that was over 10 years ago. But I was really hoping that we'd get SAG waivered. But I guess like in LA, there's no shortage of people who are in the union, so we did not get so lucky.
And that was the least of my concerns. Honestly, that was the least of my concerns getting paid. At this point. I mean, nice. I'm glad that we did, or assume we will be. We haven't been paid yet, but I assume we will be. But yeah, that was the least of my concerns.
Yeah.
I just wanted to have this experience. Yeah.
One thing I thought was funny is when we were checking in, we gave JoJo, I think you checked in first, and you gave her your name and your last name, and she couldn't find you. And then you're just like, I don't know if this helps, but I'm biker number 7. And she's like, oh, right here. And she like checked you off immediately. So
yeah, at first I got a little nervous because she's like, I can't find your name on this page. And I'm like,
she went through, like 5 different sheets. She's like, I don't see a David or a Rossi.
I'm like, oh no. Don't let my journey end here. I made it so far.
Yeah, but so you checked in, I checked in, and I just told her I'm right under him. I'm biker number 8. So, okay. So then she sent us over to the costume, and I think I got to costume before you. So
yeah,
essentially they just wanted to take a look at what you brought. So I went over, and this girl's like, "Hey, it's my first day on set too," and I was like, "Great." And she looks me over, and she's like, "Yeah, this all looks good." She's like, "I love your boots." And she's like, let's get you a vest. So they had like kind of a wardrobe rack with maybe like 30 different leather jackets and stuff. So she handed me like a couple different leather vests, and the first couple she didn't like. And then one she's like, yep, that looks good. So I want to mention something that I didn't mention originally. So on this journey to Los Angeles, I stopped in Seattle for a few days to visit our good friend Kenneth Gwinnett, fellow superfan, avid Weird Al collector, one of, if not the biggest Weird Al collector in the world. And he got me a gift because he found this thing. So if you remember in the I Love Rocky Road music video, Weird Al's version, he's wearing a leather jacket and he's got some buttons on the jacket. And you can also see this on the cover and in some of the photos in black and white and weird all over. One of the buttons is an I Love Lucy button. And so Kenneth had tracked down the exact buttons that were made. So he's like, not many of the series were made of the I Love Lucy, but he had the exact one. So not the one that Al wore.
Not the one from the video, but a replica.
Yeah, so it's like this, like the exact same, essentially not a replica, but it's
okay.
It's an authentic button that was made at the same time.
It's the same exact button that was used in the music video, but not the actual button.
Correct.
That was used
Correct.
In the music video. Okay.
But you like if you were to look at them side by side, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. So
okay, gotcha. Yep.
So I said to the costume lady, so he gave that to me as a gift. He said, "How cool would it be if you're wearing this in the I Love Rocky Road scene?" I was like,
yeah,
that is the coolest thing I could ever think of. So I brought it with me, and I was like kind of nervous because I wanted to make sure I got to wear it as like a, an homage to Kenneth and this like cool kind of Easter egg.
Right.
And so I show the costume lady and I try to explain it the best I can. And she's like, I don't think so. I was so heartbroken. I was like, you sure? I mean, it's really cool. It's authentic. She's like, yeah, I don't think so. I was like, okay.
Aww.
But so at that point, I actually was still wearing my 2000-inch hat, and they approved it, I guess. So I was like, wow, I was thinking I'd get to wear it in the film.
Yeah, sure. That'd be cool.
So,
that'd be a nice Easter egg.
Yeah. So at that point, I was approved. I didn't have to change anything. I just put on the leather vest. And then I think right as I was getting approved, then you kind of came over, and I think someone else from the tent was dealing with your costume stuff.
Yeah. So, right about after you were getting done approved, or right around when you were being approved, I walked up to the costume tent, and I didn't have quite, the same experience that you did. Immediately I walked up, and I knew I was going to have to take this off at some point, but I wear a Fitbit all the time, and I had my Fitbit still on, I was... No, I have to take. And she goes, lose the watch. Yeah. I'm like, yes, I'm aware. I will take off my watch. And then she looks at my outfit. At this point, I've got on the leather vest with the patches on the back and a couple of pins on the front. She takes a close look at the pins. She's okay with the pins. They're just generic biker pins. There's nothing really really, too special about them. Well, she looks at my white shirt and she says, "Your white shirt is way too bright. Did you bring a change of clothing?"
Yeah,
because we were also asked to bring a change of
She
clothing.
said it was like, I remember because I was right there, and she's like, "Yeah, this looks too clean for a dirty biker."
Right.
Yeah, you had this like perfect looking ironed white shirt. Like,
Right, yeah.
She had a point, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's their movie. She's costumed. She gets to decide what we're wearing. It's not my choice, right? So she's like, "Did you bring any other shirts?" And I said, "Yeah, but I only brought white shirts. I brought a white tank top, but I was told I have to cover up my tattoos on my arm, so I didn't wear that, for you to approve." And she's like, "Yeah, we can't have the tattoos." She said, "I'll get you another shirt." And she went through her stuff and she picked out a black T-shirt, basically. And I was like, "Oh, I could have brought a black T-shirt."
Right.
I didn't, like I purposely wasn't wearing a black T-shirt because I thought I looked really cool in the white T-shirt. But she picked a black T-shirt for me. It was a older, well-worn black T-shirt. It had a few small holes and it had a little pocket on it.
It was kind of ratty. It was.
It looked like it had seen some tough times. She's like, "Why don't you try this on?" I'm like, "Sure." And she says, "Why don't you turn around? I want to take a look at the patches on your vest." And she's looking at them. She's like, "I think we can get away with this. I don't know. Let me call over." I don't know if she called over the same person who was helping you or somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then she's like, they're looking at it, they're going, "I think so." I said, you know what? Let's just play it safe. I don't think we should allow these in there.
And what happened was, Dave, because I don't think you could see your back. I could see your back at that point. They were looking at all of the patches, and just one of them had a little like registered trademark symbol next to it.
Okay.
And that was what I think they were getting ready to approve it, but then once they saw the little registered trademark,
okay,
that's what killed it.
Oh, bummer. I could have covered that up or something if I knew. Yeah. Anyway, so they're like, do you have a replacement vest? And I said, "Actually, I do have a replacement vest." And I took it out and I showed it to them and said, "Oh, that's perfect." So I did get to wear my replacement vest. I was bummed out I could not wear the white T-shirt. I was bummed out I could not wear the really cool vest with the really cool patches on it. But hey, it wasn't my choice. I tried as hard as I could.
Yeah.
So I went, there was a little tent where you could go get changed. So I went, I switched out my T-shirt. I put on the other vest. I went back. I walked up to them. They said, "Oh, you're approved. You're good." So then they made us head over to, they were like, "Just go hang out over by those tables over there that are underneath the white tents." We're like, "Okay, cool."
Yeah, so we go over there, and there's a handful of other people dressed as
there's a few other people, right, starting to come up at this point, Yeah, and they all looked pretty good. They looked like a few of them you could tell, if they were not authentic bikers, they had done this before. They really looked authentic. And a few of them, looked like they were people, that maybe, that didn't maybe have authentic biker stuff on them, but, they looked the part. They looked good enough.
I want to back up just a tiny bit, Dave.
Yeah.
So before we went over to that kind of waiting area with the other bikers, since it was taking you a little bit longer to do the costume, and I didn't want to just abandon you, we're trying to stay together the whole day. I'm just kind of looking around, and I notice that there are a couple trailers kind of nearby, and there's little pieces of paper saying who's in the trailers, which is pretty cool. So the first one I see, it says Dr. Demento, Sleazy MC, Mama Bear. The next trailer over says Jim, Steve, Bermuda. And then the third one I could see said Heckler and Director. So I was like kind of trying to be eagle-eyed and like watch to see who's coming in and out. We had heard a rumor that Patton Oswalt was going to be Dr. Demento, so I'm like kind of watching. And actually, while you were doing your costume stuff, I don't know if you noticed this, someone walked over holding a black top hat, and they opened the door to Dr. Demento's trailer, and just I saw them go in and come out, and I saw a hand grab the hat. It was so exciting.
Oh, nice.
And then once we were actually over in the waiting area, at one point I saw the Demento door. We're much further away at that point, but I saw it open, and I saw someone come out dressed like Dr. Demento. and they were way taller than I would have expected Patton to be. So I was like, I wonder if that's like a body double or what's
Right.
happening. Because at that point, we still believed that it was going to be Patton playing Dr. Demento. And you know, spoiler alert, I think you know at this point that it ended up not being Patton. But we'll get into that a little bit later.
Right. Yeah, so, I don't know how long we were waiting underneath the tents, but, they came over after, I guess, pretty much all the bikers were there, if not all the bikers were there, and they made us all stand up a couple times, and they looked us up and down the line, and they're like, all right, everybody looks good. I think at that point, you were still wearing your hat, so I think they told you lose the hat.
Yeah, they told me to lose the hat. I was bummed.
And you're like, okay, well...
I tried.
You tried. And, and a couple times they had us do that.
Yeah, they would come through with different people to approve it. Like, hey, these are the bikers. And, they'd kind of go down the line like, yep, looks good. And then maybe like one or two people would be like, oh, and they would like kind of tweak something. Yeah,
it was at this point, we were pretty much all gone through costumes. We're pretty much approved. And I guess we had to sort of wait for final approver from the head designer before we were really officially approved.
Right.
So, at some point, the head designer walked up and down the line and said, all right, you're all approved. And then they grouped us together in groups of 4 or 5 and took our pictures, I guess, just in case maybe they needed to recreate that look for some other reshoot or some other scene, or they just wanted to document it. But yeah, they took our pictures.
Or maybe they were just like, guys, I think that's Dave and Ethan. Oh, well, we can't just take a picture of them. Let's pretend we're taking pictures of everyone. That's a possibility.
That's also not right. They didn't tell us why they took the pictures, but they did take pictures.
Yeah, they took pictures a couple times. Like they kind of would come through and take some pictures, and it was interesting. And then there was a little bit of time, they said, before we had to get over to set, so they gave us an opportunity to run to the car and drop off some stuff. So Dave, you brought like our changes of clothes and the stuff we didn't really need back to the car.
Yeah, but before we even got to do that, our good friend JoJo came over and she told us about what was going to happen that day. And she takes out this piece of paper and she says, well, this is basically the script for the scene, you guys.
Oh,
and she read through the entire script for us. And not going to go into specific details, but, in a nutshell, she's basically told us that we're going to be in a scene where they first discover, Weird Al. Initially, we hate him. Then, we gradually start to like him, and eventually we end up loving him.
Right.
And that's basically what they're going to be shooting that day.
Right. So that was one of the scenes. The other scene was the band before Al, and we're supposed to just be kind of into them, and then people go and start beating them up, and we're supposed to be excited that they're getting beat up. So she kind of read through it. She read a little bit of dialogue, a little bit of like background on the scene to get us prepared as actors for the for the day ahead.
And it was pretty cool because she's reading the script and it's a funny script. If you've seen the movie, you know it's funny. But this is the first time we're hearing this, and we're laughing, and the other bikers are laughing. So we know it's going to be a fun scene, and everyone's getting excited for it. It was a lot of fun, yeah.
It was really cool.
And so, we knew we had a little bit of time before we had to be transported to wherever we're going next. So, we were kind of hanging out. I actually struck up a conversation with another extra in the movie. His name is Dan Moore. He's playing another biker, a tough biker as well in the movie. I think he figured out that I had not done anything like this before. I didn't specifically tell him, but he kind of could either tell, how I was acting or looking that,
like, what a noob.
This guy is something, this is, so he basically, asked me, hey, is this, your first time? And I was like, yeah, this is everything's a new experience to me. So he's like, oh, it's really cool that, you got to come out, this is your first time, because, he said they generally don't let the extras hear the script before the scene. So that was he was happy to hear. They said it's kind of an insider thing. He says, I'm going to tell you, is that if they don't read the script to you, they pretty much know exactly what they want you to do. And you go there, they pretty much tell you where to stand, where to look, what to to do is if they read the script to you, that's kind of like an unwritten rule that you have a little more leeway to kind of do what you want to do in the scene. In other words, you're kind of free to read the room and react appropriately, cheer if you think you should be cheering and that kind of stuff. So he says, this is going to be a fun day because we get to do a little bit more than we usually do as extras in the film. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, we're already excited, and that just made us even more excited.
It's like, yeah.
And I just want to, as a note, like how friendly Dan was. Everyone on set, like the crew and the other extras, everyone was just so nice.
Oh,
it was, it was really cool to be hanging out with all these people.
Oh, yeah.
They were just really cool people.
Yeah, we're going to say that multiple times, how the people we met over the course of the day, how incredibly nice and incredible this experience was.
And even some of the people that like we didn't meet personally and didn't talk to personally, like there was just kind of a camaraderie, like walking around like between stuff. Right. Like I would see another biker and we'd give like the friendly like head shake, that kind of stuff. Yeah. It's like, we're family, we're bikers. Hey. Yeah. So at this point you go off to drop the stuff off in the car.
Yep.
And I'm sort of waiting and they're like, all right, let's head over to the people movers. And so I grabbed the stuff that you had left that you were planning to keep for the day. And so it's me and kind of this group of the other bikers and extras walking, and like I kind of see you and I'm like handing you the stuff, and then we hear this like commotion behind us.
Yeah, so like I said, I was coming back, and I see everyone walking, away from the tents, and I'm like, uh-oh, I better speed it up. I kind of jog over to you, you hand me my stuff, and yeah, there's this loud noise, and then we hear, we need a medic, and we're like, what the heck just happened? And we look over, and there's this woman on the ground.
Like, yeah, there's like this big speed bump.
Yeah.
That she's like holding her wrist and
her wrists and her legs, and
yeah, what happened was her, like her biker boot or whatever, the heel broke. As she's going over this thing, she trips, she goes to catch herself, she landed right on her wrist. And it was really bad. She was in like a lot of pain, and so they got like some of the people from the COVID tents over, and they like
luckily they were on her very quickly. The COVID people, all the doctors and nurses over there were rushing over to help her and taking care of her, and they were really quickly. So we unfortunately we did hear later on in the day about what happened to her. She fell. She ended up breaking both of her wrists and would require surgery. So
sad.
Our thoughts are, very sad. Our thoughts are out to this extra who unfortunately she just showed up for a day of work and was hoping, to have a great day, and she had to go through all this horrible stuff.
Yeah, that was terrible.
Our hearts are out for her, I guess.
And what was interesting is, the way that we found out is because a lot of these extras, the people get to know each other for showing up at different shoots. So like a couple of people who were there the whole day, they knew her personally and they were like texting with her and stuff. Right. So that's how they knew. So it was pretty interesting that people were like, oh, like throughout the day, people were like, oh, I remember you from so-and-so, or, oh, we did this together. Oh, remember when this happened? Like it was really funny.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I'm guessing, other than Ethan and myself, everybody there who was an extra was either an actor or a professional extra, or somehow in the movie or film business, somehow in the business. So I guess it's a really small community, it appears, because like they knew each other from, oh, I worked with you on, like you said, I worked with you on this thing. I worked with you on this. Oh, remember when we worked with this actor, and stuff. So they were, throughout the day, they were, just reminiscing and talking with each other. And, it was a fun experience.
That was cool.
It was great that they got to, it was pretty cool seeing that, a lot of them knew each other, or at least, were familiar with each other, from previous work.
Once everything was sort of like taken care of, and the woman who fell was like, with the right people to get her medical attention, they brought us over, and we're waiting for the people movers, which were Sprinter vans. And we hopped in, and Dave, I think we sat like right in the back row. There's probably like 9 or 10 of us in the van.
So it's funny, like throughout the day, with this people movers thing, first they say, all right, everyone head over to the people movers, get on the people movers. To me, a people mover, I think of Disneyland, the ride at the Disneyland, the people movers ride, and it's nothing like that at all. But this is just like terms that they have, affectionate terms for different things throughout the day, which I'm not familiar with. So it's funny, I'm like, people movers, yeah, let's all go over to the people movers. And I'm just like, I better follow everybody else because I don't know what the heck the people movers are. And so, they find out, oh, the people movers are the transport vans. Okay, now I understand. Throughout the day, there's other things I'll try to point out that, the inside lingo that I had to learn. It was pretty fun, to get to see that, at least for me, has never been in any situation like this before, to get to see a lot of these insider things, behind the scene things that are just so common for the people that were there.
We're going to end this with us on our journey to the Virgil on the People Movers.
Yeah, we'll be back with all of our adventures from the Cobra Pit.
Well, that's it for Chapter 2 of our The Weird, the Al Yankovic Stories series. Stay tuned for more chapters on future episodes, and be sure to tune in next chapter where we get our first glimpse at the Cobra Pit.
That sound means we have a voicemail on our 347 Spatula hotline, the official hotline of Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast. All right, intern Frank, let's hear that glorious voicemail.
Hey, Dave and Ethan. What up, Dylan Trillers? Johnny O'Hearn here. I'm with my partner, the amazingly talented Spunky Siren, Heather. And I wanted to let you guys know that I'm at some place you've all probably heard of aplenty. And if you haven't been here yet, well, what's stopping you? We drove like 3 hours away from home for this one. So, anyways, this episode is brought to you in part by Vegan Burrito Restaurant Burrito in Troy, New York, home of the 2-pound double wrapped in a quesadilla Burrito and Wizard Burger in Albany, New York. Come on down to Burrito and Burrito your Burrito. Or hop on over to Wizard Burger for mouth-watering, loaded, dare I say, beefy vegan burgers. From Troy to Albany to Uranus, Burrito and Wizard Burger feed the hungry of out-of-this-world plant-based real food, always vegan style. Visit burritosquare.com and wizardburger.com to order ahead. All right, can I have my wife and kids back? No, in all seriousness, guys, the food's delicious, as always. I was the first to try that vegan Twinkie Wiener sandwich back in early 2020, and I was like, I gotta go back. And here I am doing so. I'm gonna go back to eating this now. We're halfway through it. Love y'all.
Well, a big thank you to Johnny and, of course, Spunky Siren for finally getting to experience Burrito in all its glory at its headquarters. Thank you so much for the call, and I'm sure Burrito thanks you for your patronage.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast is brought to you absolutely free thanks to our incredible sponsors Burrito, Jackson Scoggins, and Discover Darwin. Our podcast is also supported by everyone else in our Patreon family, with special thanks to our amazing close personal friend level Patreon supporters. Nancy, Mike, Matthew, Kenneth, Gus and Alicia, Allison, Adriana, Ajax, Jake, Zeb, Zach, Dana B, Blair, Kev, Javier, Scott, and UH Jeff. Also thanks to Aaron and everyone else in our pretty stinking majestic Patreon family.
If you enjoy our freaking fantastic family-friendly Weird Al podcast, please consider supporting us at patreon.com/2000inch. There are awesome benefits like getting your name on the podcast and access to your own private RSS feed, which gives you early access to each and every bonus episode.
And now would be a good time to join if you have not joined already, because not only will you be the first to hear our longest, ridiculously self-indulgent bonus episode to date, which happens to be our concert review from the world-famous Carnegie Hall in the world-famous New York City, you will also be the first to hear our brand new 2023 ridiculously self-indulgent bonus episodes the moment that they drop.
And don't forget to check out our official merchandise over at shop.2000inch.com. All proceeds from purchases go directly towards supporting our fine podcast. Our friend Dana B recently shared with us a picture of his adorable cat Beaker comfortably sleeping on a Gill and Chillo in their new apartment. Pretty stinking majestic! You too can be pretty stinking majestic like Beaker and Dana, and Gill and Chill on your very own Gill and Chillo right now over at shop.2000inch.com.
We love hearing from our listeners and other Weird Al fans, so be sure to join our Facebook community at group.2000inch.com and be sure to visit our Discord server for even more riveting Weird Al and Red Rum to Goody related conversations. You can find both of them linked on our website, as well as information about past episodes and past guests over at weirdalpodcast.com or 2000inch.com.
And while you're there, click on ridiculously self-indulgent bonus episodes to follow along with our adventures on tour, or Black and White and Weird All Over bonus episodes for our special series where author John Bermuda Schwartz walks us through his first book, page by page and picture by picture.
Keep up on new episodes, podcast news, and events by following at 2000inch on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And be sure to subscribe everywhere you listen to podcasts so you do not miss a single episode. Not only does subscribing help the podcast, you'll also feel 10 pounds lighter and drop 1 pant size.
Plus, we also love it when we receive voicemail via our official patent-pending 27-hour-a-day podcast hotline, 347 Spatula, as seen in the Illustrated Al. That number is 347-772-8852. Give it a call, and you might even hear your message in a future episode.
For this episode and continued support of the podcast, we want to thank UH Jeff Nucera, Chloe, our Patreon family, Johnny O'Hearn, Spunky Siren, aka Heather, Dana B, and Beaker. Thank you to the Grammy Award-winning Jim Kimo West for our incredible podcast theme song. And thank you to Weird Al Yankovic, as this podcast probably would not exist without him. And a big thank you to all of you, our loyal listeners, subscribers, Patreon supporters and sponsors, and everybody else who makes our podcast possible.
Thank you for choosing Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast. And until next time, remember to Gill and Chill.
Okay, folks, this is it. If you have not already, please visit beartobestupid.com and support the incredible Showgals documentary, which tells the story of Tight and Nerdy, the Weird Al themed burlesque troupe. beartobestupid.com. Show your support.
Yeah. That was Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, episode 188-inch.
Bear to be stupid.
Yes, I did put in a Wordle reference, just because I know in however many months until this actually airs, there's a very good chance that nobody knows what Wordle is anymore. Yeah.